a review for you today, and it is actually going to be a series review versus just a regular book review. And it is going to be for the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. So basically it is sorry, I have a cat. It is a sci-fi retelling of fairy tales. The first one is Cinderella, then Little Red Riding Hood, then Rapunzel, and then Snow White. And it's a situation where with each book you sort of get introduced to a character and they sort of join the party, if that makes sense. So you start out with Cinderella, who is a cyborg. And in this world, cyborgs are kind of looked down on. They're seen as, lower class, lesser citizens because they have their mechanical parts, and that makes them less human and that sort of thing. And so our cyborg is Cinderella, and you go through kind of the Cinderella story with its own little twists. This retelling kind of reminded me of Ever After a little bit, which of course, just different Cinderella retellings, but I loved it because Cinderella is one that I do hold close to my heart, and I think it's because I loved Ever After when I was growing up. If you have not seen Ever After, it is a movie with Drew Barrymore, and it is a Cinderella retelling. I highly recommend it. And if you like that one, then I highly recommend Cinder. And then Scarlet goes into Little Red Riding Hood retelling, while continuing the plot from Cinder as well, which I was afraid it wouldn't quite work that way. I don't know what I was expecting, honestly. So there was that one, the Little Red Riding Hood one, and as it went on, it expanded the universe and it expanded everything. It was very interesting. So the plot of the series was really good. I really enjoyed it. It started out as just a girl trying to find her place in the world and just trying to get through her life. And it kind of grew up from there to her realizing that there were some big changes that just needed to happen in the world. It is sci-fi, so it also includes, a civilization that's on the moon, which is really cool. And so she realizes that not only the world needs to change, but the relationship with these moon people called Lunars needs to change. And so it's just this really cool plot that starts out so small and then it just gets so big, and I really enjoyed that. Next up is the world building, which I liked. It is set very far in the future. I think it's set a few centuries after World War IV. So yeah, it's pretty far in the future. As I said, there are people who live on the moon, and it's a situation where originally people from Earth colonized the moon, but it happened so long ago that they have evolved and developed different abilities. So they're able to control people's bioelectric fields and stuff like that, which is really cool because I'm a huge Terry Pratchett fan, and that's how the elves are in Terry Pratchett. The elves and the fairies, that's how their magic works. So that was really cool to me to read that in a sci-fi setting, because it took one of my favorite fantasy snippets, I guess, and put it in sci-fi, and that was just really cool to me. But yeah, I really enjoyed the world building. I enjoyed how different parts of Earth were developed in different ways and had different attitudes towards both cyborgs and towards these lunar people, and it was just very interesting. I was very captivated by the world building. Um, it it might have been it was probably one of my favorite parts, especially whenever we got to see things from the moon and lunar sort of, yeah. um, so yeah, that was exciting. And then last but not least, characters. So this is one where I'm actually a little bit more mixed. I loved Cinder. And I loved her sort of Prince Charming character. I loved how their romance developed. But and while I liked the other princesses pretty well, I feel like none of them quite developed the way that Cinder did, which is fair. Cinder had all 4 books to develop, but the others just came in later. Some of them I flat out didn't like, especially their sort of relationship, because they're all fairy tales, so they all kind of have someone that they end up with, sort of, and some of them I didn't like very much. Wow, it's funny because I was like, yeah, I like the characters, but now that I'm thinking about it, really it was just Cinder that I really liked. So yeah, I guess the characters were a little bit underwhelming, but the everything else made up for it well, I guess is what I could say. But yeah, so that was all of that. There were a few things that bothered me. There was one of my least favorite tropes is insta-love, and there was a kind of an insta-love situation, like an awkward insta-love situation in my opinion, that I did not like at all. And then there were some really uncomfortable things where I think there was an attempt to try to be a little bit disable oriented and to try to promote positivity towards disability at times, but then at other times there were things that were just really not good that I was not a fan of, where where the author kind of, I think very much unintentionally, just dropped the ball a bit. But yeah, outside of that, it was a fun read. It was nice and quick. It was feel good and uplifting, and there were times whenever I wished it was a little less feel good, but that was just me being silly. I knew what I was going into, so I shouldn't have. I wouldn't call it a gripe necessarily. Even it was just how would I have done this differently kind of situation, I guess. But yes, I do recommend the Lunar Chronicles if you're looking for something that's just kind of a lighthearted, fun read. It was sweet, and the world building was quite excellent. I think that is the part that caught me off guard the most. Just how much I enjoyed the world building. But I hope this review was helpful to you, and I will see you around.